Well, for more on China's migrant workers, we're joined live from Toronto by Karen Lin, an associate at Solstice Public Affairs. Karen, welcome to the broadcast.
Lovely to be here, Susan.
Let's talk about what we just saw in Meng Qingsheng's report, labor shortage, especially in sectors like construction, caused by the aging migrant workforce. How is China addressing this problem?
Well, I think before we go any further, we have to clearly define what a migrant worker is. So according to the Chinese National Bureaucratic Census, a migrant worker is a worker who no longer farms land and who has come to the city and work on, be it a construction job site or service industry. Now, according to a statistic that was recently released, 65% of the migrant workers are over the age of 55. So that is an aging working pool for you. And in order to solve that problem, I think China actually needs some structural reform to their economy. Yes, migrant workers are getting sicker, getting older, so a lot of them may not want to go to the city anymore. Some of them tend to stay home, farm the land that they haven't farmed for years, stay with the grandkids, take care of elderly parents. So in order to address these problems, I think the government will need to, first of all, create an affordable, comprehensive, long-term senior care. And the government is doing something good. Just as a report that was newly released, that the government said virtually every urban center and suburban cities, all the citizens have access to affordable health care. So that is going to help address the problem a little bit. But I think another thing is a mindset shift. You can't really do much when older migrant folks just simply don't want to go back to the city anymore.
Right, there has to be a plan also to help them transfer to less labor-intensive jobs as well, Karen.
That is absolutely correct. And health and safety, I know for a fact, is a big issue in the Chinese construction sector. And also there are some wage dispute as well. We've heard from, times and times that hardworking migrant workers went to cities like Beijing, Shanghai, worked really hard on a construction job site, but when the contract is completed, they didn't get paid. So that's really difficult for a migrant worker to put all their lives on the line when they can simply sort of say to themselves, look, I got this farmland, why not go back home? And maybe a couple of years down the road through the urbanization project, my farm is going to worth a lot more. So what is it in me that I have to come to the city and work? And a lot of them simply just don't make that choice anymore.
That's right. They are offering local hukus to many of them, trying to encourage them, but it's still a tough stance for them. How are they surviving? How are they making ends meet?
Well, some of them, like you said, may work in local service sector jobs, such as maybe they'll open a little bit of a nice little restaurant, a barber shop, but those are just meager means to get by. And you know what? Operating a restaurant and a barber shop tend to get really hard when your city is not as densely populated. So I do think the government will sort of need to encourage small to medium-sized entrepreneurship, especially in rural farmlands. And also the government has to offer a fair compensation package when the farmland is bought up. And most importantly, I think that a banking structure has to change a little bit, because Bloomberg News has reported that it is usually difficult for a migrant entrepreneur to get loans, even a small loan from the local bank, because either A, the bank just doesn't know the person, or they simply don't want to take a risk by lending money to a small, medium-sized business owner who used to be a migrant worker.
Many of the younger generation are becoming more educated, frankly, and have less interest in these type of laborsome jobs. How do you balance the two and find the workforce for China's assembly lines?
Well, you're absolutely correct. Younger generations are far better educated. If they don't end up going to college, they will at least go to vocational schools, and they just don't want to work on the farm anymore. But I think another challenge is we're entering the age of globalization and automation. As we all know, Foxconn, the manufacturer for iPhones and Samsung phones, basically opened up 4 plants in Chongqing and Zhengzhou, and a lot of those shops don't actually only require manual labor. They're replaced by robotic lines, robotic arms. So this is actually not necessarily a Chinese problem. Seeing people like us who are in Canada, we're facing the same shortages as well. We have what you call in Canada a maritime problem, where provinces like Nova Scotia